Hey, this is Mike Byrnes with another episode of Business Bests by me, Mike Byrnes. I'm a speaker throughout the nation. I actually write a lot in the industry that I'm in. I've been published over 450 times, and I'm a consultant full-time. But I wanted to create this program to help all of you hopefully get some good ideas on how to be more successful. And one that I love that's near and dear to my heart is cause-related marketing. So today I'm going to talk about cause-related marketing and how it can help your business. I think one of the things you need to go and find out on your own, don't trust a speaker that's full, full of hot air. Literally go out and see, like, does cause-related marketing work? You'll see numbers like 80% of people want to have a brand that does something good in the world. You might also see statistics, I was looking before this, that 30 to 50% lift in marketing and sales. I would be cautious of those numbers, but they're pretty consistent. You see a lot of great results, or a lot of great different surveys that have results that are going to try to tell you that cause-related marketing works. You'll only ultimately find out on your own. But for fun, just go ask ChatGPT, does cause-related marketing work? The reality is, you're actually taking something that people care about outside of what you do and connecting the two. And if you can do a really good job at that, it's got to have some benefit for you. So why does cause-related marketing work? There's corporate philanthropy that's happening, whether you're just an individual, you have your own company, and you're probably, if you're doing well, you're making donations, you're volunteering. But then there's a thing called the citizen consumer, and I actually wrote about this over 10 years ago. Those two things, when they come together, that philanthropy from the business side of things, and then the actual, the consumer, the client, they're the ones that intersect, and that's where cause-related marketing, where the benefit is. And then obviously the third part of that is, I don't have a third hand to go like this, but that's the nonprofits and charities. They need something all the time. This is the world we live in. It's never going to change. So those three things coming together, that's the perfect storm. That creates the opportunity. And so if you can tie into what that is, I like a lot of the clients that I work with just give because, again, they're wealthy and they've done well, or they volunteer. They care about something. I just had a client call right before this, Heidi, shout out to Heidi. She was talking about being a volunteer on a board and for a nonprofit, and she does a whole bunch of other things. And what that does, she said, is lets the board members know that she's just a good person, and they align because they care about the same thing. That's being a board member is something that's more consistent than just a volunteer day where you show up and paint a school or something. But all of those things create opportunities to meet new people and to wow them. But that's kind of the basic version of it, starting to get started by helping some organization or individual, whatever it might be that you care about. But then how do you take it to the next level? I'm a volunteer consultant, not to toot my horn of what I do, but on the side, I'm a volunteer consultant through Empower Success Corps. So I've been on a bunch of nonprofit boards. It's really great because you get to get deep into the organization and you know it really well, but it repeats and can be years and years and years. So your exposure kind of can dry up over time. There's always some kind of turnover or something with nonprofits, but the reality is you get less exposure, but you do get deeper. The group that I volunteer with, it's something you might want to look into. I know my group's in New England, but there are other things like that where you can be a volunteer. And it's nice because that can be project-based. Might be 3 months, might be 6 months, might be a year if it's really intense. But you're kind of in and out, and you get exposure to that nonprofit. You do what they really need you to do, and you make some really great relationships. But that one's neat because then you're project-based, kind of like a movie. Like the movies come together, they got all these great people that come together, they do what they need to do, and then they're on to the next project. So something to think about besides just the traditional volunteering and writing a check. One thing before getting into best practices that you want to think about is, all right, it's great to give out of your own net worth, but is this cause-related marketing, is it something that should be in your budget? Cause-related marketing actually has results. So I said that earlier, you got to go prove it yourself or do your own research. But if it does work and it has a positive ROI, shouldn't your budget dollars be allocated to this, and shouldn't you have a plan for it every year? And it's a win-win, right? Like you get to make your business more successful, but you're also helping charity. So I'm a really big believer that part of your budget dollars should be allocated to this, and you should have a really you should have a really well thought out plan for it. So in other words, it's marketing with a purpose. And if you really think about it, what are you trying to accomplish and who are you trying to connect with? If you are going after wealthy clients, and that is what a lot of people are trying to do, if you're going after them, they give more and they volunteer more than the next tier down. So mass affluent or whatever different groups you're looking at, those are the things that matter to them. That's how they live their days. That's how they live their weeks. That's how they live their months and their year, right? They're doing these things, and that's the thing they really care about. If they have a lot of wealth, the number one thing they care about usually is their family, making sure their family's going to be taken care of. So if the wealth's going to outlive them, that's their number one concern. Guess what number two is? That philanthropic thing that they care about, the cause or whatever it might be. And so money is usually in their estate plan is going to be going to helping that. So if you are a service provider and you're tied in with wealth, you really should have a focus on knowing what your clients care about, what do they do, how are they active, etc. So I did a whole couple segments on client research before this, and it's so important. You ready? If you watch those segments, you already know how much I care about client research. But this is just one little component of it. Make sure that you're capturing this. There's a lot of clients that you have or prospects that won't tell you what they do. They want to make this stuff private. So you got to do a little digging in a way that's not offensive to them, obviously, but eventually get them. Some of them will wear it on their sleeves. They'll tell you everything they do, and then other ones you just would never have any idea that they were doing some great things, and they want to be anonymous. So that's a challenge in that case. You need to figure that out. But that's when your CRM kicks in, and I don't want to get you confused with CRM with cause-related marketing CRM. I'm talking about the CRM that's really your contact management system or whatever you want to nickname it. That's where you really need to take all that research on your clients and prospects, if you have it, and put it in there and maximize that later on, and we'll talk about some strategies to do that. But you really want to start to figure out what are those cells or rows or columns or fields or whatever they might be that are capturing that information. Again, if you're working with a whole family, there might be a whole set of different institutions or charities or nonprofits, whatever you want to call them, those causes that they care about. And then actually make sure you track why. Like, did they lose a father to a certain disease, or was it something that they just saw on TV and there was a video that wowed them, or they just hate that this thing is happening in their own backyard, like in their city or town. And find that out and make sure you have really good client notes on what that philanthropic connection is. Because again, if the things they care about the most are their kids and maybe grandkids, and then the second category is philanthropy, so many people just dust over that. And that's where they're dropping the ball. And this is where you could really set yourself apart. So some ideas of how to use this cause-related marketing to your benefit. I like to talk about events and event strategies. Really wealthy people, if that's who you want to work with, a lot of times they're these submerged whales, like they disappear underneath and they pop up and it's really hard to see them. Not like, I use the analogy of a dolphin or a porpoise, like you're seeing them all the time, but that big whale goes down and disappears. But again, if philanthropy is the thing they care about, that's one of those times they're going to come up. So one of the event ideas that I would have is an appreciation event. So you go to a nonprofit leader and you say, hey, as a volunteer consultant, I know this for a fact that the executive directors and the people in charge of fundraising, major gifts or whatever it might be, they know they have to make their donors feel appreciated. If they do, they're more likely to give again. And guess what? If they feel really appreciated, they might even give more. The problem with nonprofits, true with every business, but especially with nonprofits, is they have limited budgets, right? So they don't have time and dollars to do these types of events, but they know that they will really work. So now if you allocated some of your donations and restricted them, so on the check you could put a little note on it, but obviously you're probably working with somebody if you're writing a big enough check. but you can actually put some kind of restriction on it. Or if it's coming from your marketing dollars, you can actually plan it out with that type of, whoever the counterpart is that would be sit across from, the table for you from a nonprofit. Like, so if you're sitting across the table from the marketing person at that firm, you can brainstorm some ideas, and you can just say, hey, I know it really matters to appreciate your supporters. I would love to help with that. And so if you do this type of event, you can say, let's start with your top donors, and we'll just do an appreciation, drinks and apps, like cocktail hour type of thing. You get them to maybe a nice restaurant for a short amount of money. If you don't have to have the dinner included, you let it go for an hour, hour and a half, and it's just a mingle. You maybe get a little speaking time, or you could say, hey, this is hosted by us because we care so much about this charity, and talk about your connection to it. So just want to let you know that I care about you, every single one of you in this room, because you're helping this charity that I care about so much. Now you've aligned and you've made a really great connection with these people. You don't even really have to talk much about what you do, because they're going to love you and they're going to want to know a little bit more about you, what you do, etc. Actually giving a sales pitch in that type of environment will backfire. But what you've done now is, if the executive director is on board with this, or whoever it might be, your contact, you've now got exposure to these really wealthy people. And in some cases, it'll be the husband and wife, or the two spouses. So you're going to get to see both sides of the relationship. It's really interesting. If you talk with a traditional family, maybe the male makes financial decisions, but everything from bills to expenses in the house, but maybe the female does everything that's philanthropic. And this isn't, I don't mean this to be stereotypical, because it could be reversed, right? It could be the female does X and the male does Y. But whoever those two people are, you might, if you just had one of them in the room, you might not be talking to the decision maker, the one that rolls up the sleeves and does the volunteering, et cetera. So where I was going with this is that it's wonderful to have these events. If they have a relationship where there are couples, try to get them both in the room. One of the things that you could do in there, obviously you have the name tags, but have a little bit of a formal time where people go around and tell everybody why the charity is important to them. So obviously kind of have some registrations, who's there, but then you get that research, like, wow, this is why this is important to me. Like that if I share that to this little intimate group, and they might not do it publicly, but they might do it because there's other people like them in this room, and they might feel comfortable to do that. That's how you can make that connection, right? Like, you can find out what inspires them to be this person that supports the charity. Really, really valuable information. So from a cause-related marketing standpoint, nonprofits are kind of like this, a pyramid from a donating standpoint. Major gifts, the top of the pyramid, are the people that might help with a capital campaign. They might write the $1 million plus checks, or make some gigantic contributions in some way. Those are the ones that can be super impactful to your business, right? So to get those people in a room, to know who they are, right? Like, they're, again, those submerged whales, it's a secret. You might not ever be able to find out who those wealthy people are. But now this event has allowed you to do that. So maybe have a little opportunity to thank them, make them feel really appreciated, do the little round robin, but then walk around and shake all their hands and get to know them, and maybe say, hey, I would love to get to know you. Oh, by the way, what do you do? Oh, you're a golfer. Let's go play sometime. Or, oh, what's your favorite restaurant? Oh, you go there all the time. We should go sometime. And then you're making a connection without even selling yourself or your products or services, and that's how you make those real connections. Then down the road, your sales process better than me, and we'll do more videos on that too. But when you get them into the lead funnel and you know who they are, these big whales, you can't just have like the normal hook line that you throw out there with a little worm on it. You got to have a much better approach, and you're probably going to have to be a little bit more patient with these types of relationships to foster that friendship side of it before you would ever talk about anything business related. With that said, you should have some kind of follow-up. So with the executive director's permission, or whoever your coordinator was, sit down with them and talk about, hey, here's a strategy I would like to do to thank them, to make them feel appreciated. This should come from you, but as the organizer of this event, I don't mind doing this. And so an example of this might be a handwritten thank you card with some other little gift. And I think you could also in there say, just was so inspired by the kindness that whole room had showed that I actually made a bigger donation myself. And so that could be the gift, that you just were so motivated by their caring side, whatever that might be, that you actually donated more. Now you're even more connected. So be careful you're not doing this for the wrong reasons, but that type of follow-up, all these different things are going to bring you closer with those people that are usually, if they're not a potential client for you, they're really influential and they all know a lot of other people like them. The wealthiest people are more likely to know other wealthy people like them. So guess what? The executive director sees a lift in donations right after this. So maybe like right out of the gate, they come home and they send in another check or make another online donation or whatever it might be. Wow, that person that is your contact at the nonprofit is like, we need to do more of those. So maybe that same group, you actually set up something that's annual, or you could determine what the frequency is. But guess what? Now maybe the next tier down that's also wealthy, maybe they don't give quite as much. That's another one that should feel appreciated, and another one, and another one. And as long as you're seeing ROI on whatever that might be, that appreciation event. So we use the example of drinks and appetizers. Let's say you have a budget of $500. I'm just making up a round number. And you see a gigantic lift of that, you're not going to be afraid to spend another $500 to do more of those, even though the tier of donor size is going to go down. There's people that might not be able to write the big check yet. They might have kids in college. They might be, in the accumulating stage, but they have a really high income, whatever it might be, or they haven't inherited the wealth from their parents yet, whatever it might be. Really wealthy people, again, they care about their kids and their grandkids. Philanthropy is actually something that they pass down a lot of times. So you might actually just want to offer something, a service for them to get together and talk about ways that you could help their kids keep this cause, keep what they're doing in their mission to make whatever better, to keep that growing and alive. And that's the type of stuff that they'll choose to work with you, because they know that you're really in this for the long haul, and it's not just something that you're just trying to win clients. And I think you're going to have a very successful approach if you do that. Volunteer days is another really easy one. So you could go to a nonprofit and say, hey, I know that you don't have a lot of dollars to paint the boardroom, or if it's a school, paint the bathrooms. Like I've done that before for serve-a-thon types of things, and been in some disgusting bathrooms, right? Like that, you're saving their staff, their janitorial staff, or if they have a maintenance person, and that's man hours, but also the paint, the supplies, the people, all that stuff that goes into that. So let's say you go to the nonprofit and say, hey, I really want to help out. I can bring 5 of my people to do this, but I'd love to get another 15. Can we do this to make your biggest donors have a better connection with the organization? So whatever it is, that day of service type of event, it could be just helping the people that they serve. So Special Olympics might be some unique thing where they do some sporting event, or I talked about painting a school, whatever it might be. Now you're actually going to get a benefit from organizing something for your organization, a reward for them. It's not a vacation day. It doesn't count as a work day, but it doesn't count as a vacation day. They're actually kind of getting a day off from their regular day, but it's going to create all kinds of marketing opportunities for you with pictures and stories and videos. We'll talk about that more. But again, you're making that connection with those wealthy people. If you're painting around a nasty toilet for a half a day, and the other person's doing the toilet next to you, I guarantee you will have some connection coming out of that, that you might be lifelong friends, that you survive that type of thing. But sometimes things are just really fun. I can remember doing the Special Olympics and leaving there like so inspired. I felt like a better person. And if you go through that type of experience with someone else, wow, like there's that great opportunity to connect. let's say the opportunity is a half an hour. So I'm going to make up, not a half an hour, half a day. So you start at 9 a.m., you end at noon. That might be an opportunity to say, hey, this was so great. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Any chance you want to go to lunch? And they might just say yes. Or if it's in the evening and you want to go get a drink or a burger or whatever, you can go fancier if you need to. Really, really great way to make connections. So volunteer days are fantastic. When you're actually doing a day of service, it's easier to have a photographer around too. And so from a cause-related marketing standpoint, you can use this to your benefit. You can get that exposure. You can do a recap of that. You might not be able to do that with the first idea with the appreciation dinner. Maybe you could take a picture of everybody, but that's probably something you want to be a little cautious about, because those people, again, if they're writing big checks, they're going to probably be more private than the average mass affluent or a person that maybe doesn't have wealth at all. One idea is to give education on how to give in a more tax-efficient manner. So financial advisors, you have a really big competitive advantage on this. CPAs, they should be having that conversation too. Maybe estate planning attorneys, they should be involved. So there's other professions, but let's say those are the big three. So for a financial advisor, you go to the executive director, or again, the person in charge of major gifts, and you say, hey, I'd love to have just a one-on-one meeting with your top donors just to educate them on how to give in a more tax-efficient manner. So let's just say, what's going to happen when they die? How is that wealth going to be passed on? A real easy conversation to have. So let's use the financial advisor example. They send out 3 invites. They get 1 meeting, really wealthy person. Maybe it's the couple or the whole family that comes. You talk to them. And by the way, their person that they already have or use, or their team of people, isn't having this discussion. Like, they've just opened up the back door for you to come in and win them, because not only are they going to trust you, but they're going to like you, and you're going to have this, this feeling that this connection that you care about the same thing. That's so super valuable. And by the way, if they do now put something in place, that nonprofit contact you have, let's say it's the executive director, is now going to want you to meet with every wealthy individual or family that they get donations from. And that's the kind of the secret of this, is just have the win-win-win. So the nonprofit benefits, the donor or the family benefits, and you'll benefit too. A fourth event idea is a pretty obvious one. It's a fundraiser. This is where you can have a really elegant event, very high class, or it can be kind of something that's a little low key. But that, if you're already giving, maybe you can work with a nonprofit to say, hey, I'd like to kind of give this with kind of a matching gift kind of strategy, where I want to use it to either get them to match your gift, or you can use it to say, hey, I'll spend it on the expenses of X, Y, and Z. I'll kind of restrict it to your marketing and your fundraising efforts, and we'll see if it works. And a lot of times it's really going to hit a home run. I've seen everything to like really high-end events where like maybe someone will bring the nicest bottle of wine or champagne that they have, and people will then have kind of like a lottery where they can put in money to have a chance to win one of those, or they can actually just bid on them. So that's like a theme. Obviously, you can do all kinds of events. Let's say it's a big golf event, so you can actually charge people just to be involved, but then there can be all kinds of silent auction items, raffle items, and you can actually have a live auction. Wonderful ideas. You can even go into the world of like an online auction, and actually you can be the DJ or the MC, if you want to say that, and like use some video editing skills to go out there and tout these things that people can bid on. Really cool idea to think about. So what would that event be? I like to think about your best clients and maybe reverse engineer this. So the ideas I've given you so far are going to the nonprofit and then having them help the event. What if we don't go to them, but we go to your biggest client, one that you know is really philanthropic, and you say, hey, what do you care about? And then create an event to support them. I'll give you an example. I worked with a financial advisor. He joined a really high-end tennis club, and he was trying to penetrate the country club and get exposure to all the really wealthy members, right? And he was kind of a new guy, and he didn't have a really good idea how to do that, except for occasionally having a match against some people they didn't really know. And then he wasn't having a lot of traction because he was kind of a stranger and building up really good relationships. So he did have one wealthy client that worked there. And so we were talking about some ideas on how to maximize that. And I said, when I work with my clients, I get really deep. So I don't just have like generic advice. I really want to know, tell me everything about that client. And he shared that his son had autism. And so he was really big on tennis, played all the time, and talked about work and family and a whole bunch of other things. But I just zoned in on the tennis and the autism. I said, we'll talk about event marketing in another recording, but the reality was I said, take all the ingredients of an event idea, but let him put the ingredients together and bake the cookie, so to speak, right? Don't just bring the cookie baked to him. So the idea was, hey, we're gonna consider doing an event to raise some money to help, whatever actual specific program the son was involved in related to autism. And I will MC it, I'll get some awards, I'll work with the pro to schedule the matches, and we'll have a little, a contest. We'll give away prizes, everything from the worst tennis player or worst doubles players, all the way up to the champion. And I'll have a sign, and then I'll support it with, the cocktail reception after, or whatever it might be. And wow, not only, he just brought the ingredients to that person, the person loved the idea so much, he made it his event, basically. He got all the really wealthy people to come, helped organize it, was so passionate about it, but he did know that, in this case, the financial advisor had come up with the idea, got all the credit for it. He couldn't thank him enough. They raised a decent amount of money. Just imagine, I think maybe it was 24 tennis players, I'm forgetting now. So they were involved, and really wealthy people, they write a check for at least $250, if not $1,000 each. Maybe they just made 20 grand. I forget what they raised, but I can tell you that client of mine got a lot of business because he got exposure to these people and built up the relationships over time. So he saw an initial spike and then a delayed spike because he just continued to see those people. Once you get a client within the country club, then they start to brag about you. So whether it's golf or tennis or whatever it might be, and that expands, and that word of mouth really takes off. So that event was really the catalyst of him being successful in that tennis club. And he did the right thing. He helped the client. So I'm going to continue this conversation in the next episode, but this has been another episode of Business Bests. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much. I'm Mike Byrnes.